What's going on, everybody? David here from the Poison Apple Podcast, and as promised, Bambi Thoughts are coming to you right meow. We are doing our Bambi Thoughts one at a time with each host to kind of close the book on the golden era of Disney animation before we take our official, very brief break until schedules kind of calm down here. But you guys have asked, you have been super patient, so here we go. Thoughts on Bambi. I'm going to try and keep this in the same general format that we have done previous episodes on Spotify and on YouTube. So I'm going to start off with our initial thoughts, my initial thoughts, my previous exposure to this film. I did the math and I have not watched this movie in 23 years. When I was a kid, I watched this movie with my mom for the very first time. I asked her if we could watch it, and she looked at me like I was crazy. She was like, "Why would you want to watch this?" And I was like, "I don't know. It's a Disney movie. I haven't seen it yet. How bad can it be?" And it emotionally wrecked me, and I haven't touched it again until this rewatch for this podcast. To the point that when Joey had come to the rest of us and asked if we wanted to be a part of this Disney rewatch show, I knew that that meant that I was going to have to watch Bambi, and this was the only movie that I had this thought with, but I was just like, God damn. But yeah, it is what it is. I watched it. I cried. Ugly cried, as a matter of fact. And after my rewatch, I would say my other initial thoughts are just that it's over, and there are some parts of it that are a little confusing. But I don't want to just spend the entirety of my video just dumping all over this movie. There were some very nice moments, so I'm going to kind of deliver a couple of what we dub our yes moments from this movie. For me, the artwork in this movie was beautiful. The backgrounds were fantastic. And the differences in the backgrounds, even depending on the season, like in spring and summer, in fall, it was very detailed, but like almost like the closer that we got to winter, the more abstract that it became. Like it went from very detailed and bright and colorful in spring to this just sort of blend of cooler colors in the background, not really knowing what all is back there in winter. I thought that was a very interesting choice, and I thought it worked very well. I also liked the animation difference between the deer and literally every other woodland creature in this movie. I think it's some behind the scenes footage from the Disney animation side of things is that they did very heavily study how deer move about in the real world. So you could tell that the homework went into how deer actually move, and they gave them that extra treatment of artwork because they move so gracefully and accurately to how they do in the wild. But then literally every other woodland creature is just, it's that classic old school Disney cartoon style. Like I think about Friend Owl, and Thumper and Flower. Like they're just that very classic cartoon character animal look. Not that they don't move and interact as those animals I would think normally would in the wild, but it's just very clear that that is a cartoon. So I did like the animation in the background in this movie. Something else that I appreciated with Bambi is that I feel like Disney made the journey of life and some of the standard things that everybody deals with at some point in life, it made those topics very approachable to families and to young people. Like the idea of being a child and everything just being larger than life, and that wonder and being excited to learn about the world around you. But then you kind of learn that there are the occasional things that you need to be concerned about, things that you need to be wary of. The things that might seem scary aren't as scary as you think, and that there's a reason for those things. Like the thunderstorm is one that sticks out, but then there's other things that it's like, I don't wholly understand why I need to be afraid of this, but I am, kind of like how they dealt with man and fire in this movie. And also dealing with just growing up and loss and acceptance, and to an extent moving on. I'll get to that a little bit more in my yikes, but I do think that it made certain life events very approachable to families and to young people. And I do admire Disney for taking that leap. Okay, now on to the yikes. Obviously, the loss of Bambi's mom is the most heart-wrenching thing in this movie, arguably a top 5 heart-wrenching moment in a Disney movie, period. And I thought that that initial panic and concern to acceptance, I thought that was very well done, as heart-wrenching as it was. it I wasn't a huge fan of the transition from that to the next sequence, which, if you've been following us for a little while, I've kind of cracked jokes about this in some of the memes, that I don't like that we went from losing Bambi's mom and that being a very just real and gut-wrenching scene immediately to this happy-go-lucky song about spring. And we went through like three-fourths of the song before we even saw Bambi. So like I'm still wiping tears away from my face, and I don't know where Bambi is. I don't know how he's been doing since the loss of his mom. Like I know I would be just a complete wreck of a person. So for me, I wasn't a huge fan of how abrupt that particular sequence was. I get that it's a Disney movie and that it's a kids movie, so the time frame can only go so far. But I that was a part of the storytelling that I kind of felt like gave me a little bit of whiplash. So I wish that they would have done that maybe a little bit different. Also wasn't a fan of, what I dubbed in my notes as Men Round 2 at the end of the movie. It was one of those that, again, I get that it kind of had to come full circle with Bambi kind of facing this and the destruction of man and how it kind of wrecked him emotionally as a kid, and now we're kind of dealing with men kind of destroying his home, like from a physical standpoint. I get why we went full circle with that. But again, it's just like I feel like Bambi had been through enough. I feel like this was a very emotionally trying Disney movie. Like let's just give him a break, right? Also, I think Friend Owl calls it that, like, animals are Twitter pated or whatever. When Bambi, Thumper, and Flower were kind of finding their significant others, I don't know why, but I just found that to be a very odd sequence, especially for a Disney movie. Again, with each negative thing, I am kind of trying to concede the point as to I understand why it's in there. I just thought that was kind of an odd sequence for a Disney movie. And again, it happened very quickly in the terms of the time frame of the movie after losing Bambi's mom. So I thought it was an odd choice. So moving into my favorites and least favorites here real quick before we get to my final score. My favorite character, I'm going to be real, I gave it to Friend Owl. I feel like Friend Owl, he's such an underrated character. This man wanted nothing more than to just sleep and was being bothered by everybody. So Friend Owl actually gets favorite character. Least favorite character, I mean, I have to give it to men, right? Like, they literally ruined Bambi's life twice over. Favorite song, I'm going to give it to April Showers. I didn't expect that one to actually get a favorite song because I was like, maybe that's the only song in the movie. But I actually thought that the animation that went with that sequence was very well done. How they were able to even animate thunder into the mix, how they handled thunder and lightning and the rain kind of falling off all of the plants. I thought that was very well done. So more the animation that went with that song than anything else, but that got favorite song for me, April Showers. And for my least favorite, I don't even know the name of the friggin' song, but the spring song after we lost Bambi's mom, least favorite. It gave me emotional whiplash, 10 out of 10, not a fan. So for my final score, the way that I've done it in past episodes is I kind of like to do a compliment sandwich here. So I did really like the animation and the background, again, that went into this with April Showers, the different backgrounds, depending on the season, the way that they animated Bambi and his mom and the great prince of the whatever, his dad, I think, maybe. I thought that was very well done. They looked extremely realistic for a cartoon. And background was the other thing that I really liked. The thing that I really didn't care for with Bambi was honestly everything else. I did not particularly care for this movie. Again, I concede that for each thing that I didn't like, I can see why they made the choice that they did. I did not care for this film. It was emotionally wrecking. There were parts of it that were confusing and just odd choices that I had a hard time getting past. So my final score for Bambi, I'm giving it a 40. And if you're tuning in for the very first time, we normally give our scores out of a 100. So that is a 40 out of 100 for me on Bambi. And I thank you guys for watching, and I encourage the rest of our hosts over here on Poison Apple Podcast to post their Bambi thoughts and let us know in the comments what you thought of Bambi. Thank you guys for watching, and we will see you real soon.